no matter what field they're in. These are people who are doing remarkable work, whose work has far-reaching impact. These are the people that we look up to. These are the people that we all want to be like. I know I want to be in the 1% club. I know each and every one of you wants to be in the 1% club. That's why you're all here today, because you all genuinely care to know what it takes to lead an extraordinary life, to lead an inspired life. Now, why is it that 99 out of 100 people end up living lives of mediocrity, whereas only 1 out of 100 manages to break through and create an extraordinary life for themselves? Now, I don't necessarily have all the answers. I think my journey, much like many of you, is only just beginning. But if I look at my life, there are 3 key distinctions that I have learned, 3 powerful ideas that I have come across that are helping me lay a strong foundation towards that goal that I would like to share with you today. And I think many of my ideas will echo those of the speakers before me. So the first distinction is between following your heart and following your mind. Now, the biggest reason I think many of us remain mired in mediocrity is because we're asking ourselves the wrong question. Now, think back to when you were a little child. What was the most commonly asked question that you got? Who would you want to be when you grow up? And how would you answer that question? I'm sure you would come up with big, grand answers like, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be the world's greatest leader. I want to be the prime minister of this country. I want to be the next superhero. I know I used to say I want to be the next Mother Teresa. And so you fast forward from childhood to adulthood, and one thing that happens is, 1, that question kind of changes, and 2, the answer to that question somehow just fades in your memory. Now, if I ask you, what is the biggest question that is consuming all of your energy? What kind of job can I get after I graduate, right? 2 very, very different questions. Who do I want to be versus what kind of job can I get? Who do I want to be is a big question, and it forces you to come up with a big answer. What kind of job can I get is a smaller question, and it kind of does bring out a smaller answer. The question itself limits your thinking. So you go from, oh, I want to be an astronaut, to, I don't know, I want to be a software engineer at Microsoft. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying wanting to be a software engineer is necessarily a bad thing, but here's the problem. If I ask you, who do you want to be? The answer that you would give me would most likely come from a voice inside of you. It'll come from your heart. But if I ask you, what kind of job do you want to get? You will tell me an answer that comes from up here. You will tell me what you think you want. You'll tell me what you think makes sense for you. And more than likely, you'll give me an answer that is a realistic goal for you. Now, the people that are part of this 1% club, what question are they asking themselves? Are they following their heart, or are they following their mind? Now, I'll give you a hint. It's not following their mind. Like Steve Jobs said, follow your heart and your intuition. Somehow, they already know what you truly want to become. So follow your heart and intuition, no matter where it leads you, no matter how unrealistic the goal is. Now, here's what happened with me. So I went from having this rather grandiose goal of wanting to be like Mother Teresa to fast forward to when I was in college in New York to wanting to have a high-powered career on Wall Street. Why? Because that was a realistic goal for me. I was in New York. New York is the financial capital of the world. Most of my friends were thinking about careers in finance, so I figured, why not chase after the same dream? So I went after that, and I got it. I worked for about 6 years at a large investment bank as a vice president for business development and marketing. So I got everything I wanted. I got the fancy office. I got the nice title next to my name. I made the big bucks. Now, did that make me happy? No. Well, one, because I never really felt like I was on a path of my own choosing, that was my dream. And two, I was part of a rat race, right? No matter what I had, there was always someone with a nicer office or with a bigger title. There was always the next promotion to go after. There was always more money to be made. I never felt like what I had was enough, that I was enough. I always felt like I had to chase after the next big thing. And what often happens in a corporate job, as I'm sure many of you will find out, your entire success often hinges on one and only one thing: how much your boss likes you. So God forbid you end up with a boss you don't like or who doesn't like you, and you're screwed. And then of course I had, I suppose I led, I guess for lack of a better word, a rather glamorous life on the side as well. I had my own TV show. I was doing all these creative projects in acting and dancing. And don't get me wrong, it was a lot of fun, but even that did not seem like enough. Because here's the funny thing about fame: your fame is never truly your own. It's driven by people's perception of you, and that perception can change at any time. So even that really leaves you feeling rather insecure. So fame was not enough, fortune was not enough. I was desperately searching for a more lasting, a more concrete sense of happiness and fulfillment. Which brings me to the second distinction I want to share with you, and that's the difference between happiness and meaning. Now, I initially pursued a career in finance because I thought that's what would make me happy. I'm sure if I ask you about what you want to do after college, I'm sure one of the things you're thinking about is what would make me happy. I mean, that's one of the variables you're considering, and naturally so. At the end of the day, we all want to be happy. It's a worthwhile goal. But here's the funny thing about happiness. One doesn't always get happiness by going after happiness. Happiness must ensue as a byproduct of something else. So if you look at most of the people who belong to this 1% club, if you look at the greatest leaders that have come in all of history, whether it's a Gandhi or it's Martin Luther King or Abraham Lincoln, did they pursue happiness? No. What they pursued was meaning. What's the difference? Happiness is defined by what we can get. Meaning is defined by what we can give. And all of these people defined their life by meaning, by how much value they can create for others. Much like the speakers that have spoken before me, whether it's an Anshu Gupta or a Venkat, they're all looking to create value for others. And when you make that mind shift from what I can get to how I can give, that is when you are on your way to joining that 1% club. And when that realization dawned on me, that is when I started thinking about, okay, how can I really make a contribution? And I thought back to my childhood dream. And of course, I didn't it's not like I wanted to be a nun, far from it, but I knew what lay behind that whole idea of wanting to be like Mother Teresa was this desire to feel a stronger connection with the people around me and to make the kind of impact that I could see and touch and feel. And so I quit my corporate job in New York. I came down to India with no idea of what I'm going to do here. I had no clear roadmap, no clear plan, but just this desire. But here's a beautiful thing that happens when you pursue your heart's calling and when you pursue something that is meaningful to you. The universe opens doors for you. Much like Paulo Coelho said in The Alchemist, when you really, really want something, it's almost as if the entire universe is conspiring to give it to you. So I think it was a month after I moved to India, I met these two gentlemen who said, we are looking to create this organization called National Social Enterprise Forum because we want to empower the youth of this country to tackle the greatest challenges and problems this country has. Would you like to come on board? And without skipping a beat, I said, absolutely. The youth is the greatest asset this country has, all of you here today. And if I can use my talents and my skills to help, absolutely, I'm completely on board. And now, 2 years later, we are working in more than 40 universities around the country. We've worked with more than 10,000 students, trying to inspire and educate and mentor budding young social entrepreneurs. So if you want to be a social entrepreneur like an Anshu Gupta, but you have no idea how to start, where to go, what to do, you can come to us and we would be more than happy to give you all the support and all the training and all the mentorship you need to get you along the way. So here's another radical idea. It's much, much easier to be extraordinary than it is to be ordinary. So it's much easier to be extraordinary than to be ordinary. And I know many of you are thinking, wait, that sounds counterintuitive. How could it be easier? Well, if you think about it, there are far too many people trying to lead the ordinary life, trying to go the normal path. So there is a lot more competition, and that's what makes it harder. I'm sure I could probably list 5 companies right now that 90% of you are trying to work for. I know when I was in business school, there were basically only 2 paths that all of my peers were trying to follow. Either you look for a job in management consulting, or you look for a job in investment banking. And in either case, they're just basically everyone is going after the top 2 or 3 companies. So hyper competitive. And I looked at that and I said, that's just not for me. I wanted to create my own path. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I think I stand apart from my peers, because I took the road less traveled. And for you as well, I'm sure all of you, as I look around, I know all of you worked extremely hard all through school. I'm sure you worked your butts off to get good marks in 10th and then in 12th so you could go to an incredible college. All of you competed for the same few colleges in the country, and now all of you are going after, I'm sure, the very few coveted jobs in the same few top companies. And my question to you is, aren't you tired? Aren't you exhausted? Aren't you frustrated? Is that what you really want? And if it is, great, all the power to you. But if it's not, my question to you is, why not create your own path? Why not try and do something that nobody else is daring to do? Why not go the route that people you've heard from today have gone, whether it's a Bharadwaj or Anshu or Venkat? Now let's say if you do go that path, if you do decide to create your own path, is it hunky-dory after that? Is it a cakewalk after that? Absolutely not. And that's the third distinction and final distinction I would want to make for you. Here's what happens. Of course, when you go after bigger dreams, what happens? You face bigger fears. The bigger the dream, the bigger the fears. That's what I'm facing right now, and I want to be completely honest about that, because as I'm thinking about what's the next step for me beyond NSEF, and I'm thinking about how I can create a larger social impact, I know there are all kinds of fears that I am wrestling with. What if I fail? What if my parents don't understand the path that I'm on? What if I'm ridiculed? What if my friends don't understand what I'm trying to do? And if you also face similar fears, there are two things I want to say to you. One, if you have those fears, that's actually a good thing, and it's something we want to celebrate instead of run away from. Why is it a good thing? Because it shows that you're pushing your limits. If we're following the safe route, if we're doing the thing that is safe and easy, are you going to feel fear? No. You feel fear when you're pushing your limits, when you're trying to go beyond what you're comfortable with. So it's a good thing. And the second thing I want to say, if you feel fear about whether or not you can create your own path, it doesn't mean you're not good enough. Quite the contrary, it means you are in very good company. Here's a really interesting fact. I think it was last year at Stanford Business School, which is like one of the top business schools, and especially known for entrepreneurship. The incoming class was asked, how many of you think you are the one mistake that the admissions committee made? How many people do you think raised their hands? There were fully 2/3 of the class who raised their hand. So vast majority of people, even that are going to the top business school, didn't think they were good enough to be there. So I just wanted to mention that, because it is something I suppose we don't talk about enough, but it is something that sense of fear or inadequacy is something we all feel, and it's okay. It's perfectly okay. In fact, you find that more among overachievers than you do among the rest of the people. And similarly, if you see. Recently, I read this book by this mythologist called Joseph Campbell. He wrote this book called The Hero's Journey. And what he did was he studied mythological heroes of all time across all cultures. So whether it's India or Greece. And what he found, and he basically mapped out what the journey of a hero looks like. And what he found was that in each and every case, when a hero is called to an adventure, the first instinct is always to say no because of that fear. But what he says to the hero is that the cave that you fear holds the treasure that you seek. So the cave that you fear holds the treasure that you seek. So for the hero has to do the very thing he is afraid of to get to the next step of his journey. Of course, a very common, or rather the most popular example in recent times is Batman, right? So if you look at Batman, what was the thing that he was most afraid of? Bats. So, and what does he do with that fear? He turns that fear on itself, makes it his ally, and then uses it against his enemies. So that's the last one of the last few thoughts I want to leave with you is that if whatever fear you have as you go about your path, make that fear your guide. Your fear is actually telling you what direction you should go in. So make your fear your greatest ally. So follow your heart and your intuition. Find something that is meaningful to you. Make your fears your ally and take action. And start with baby steps if you have to, no matter how large the goal. Like someone said, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And the last thought I would just say, I know this is a conference where we're talking about what inspires those that inspire us. And I just want to say to all of you, whatever inspiration you need is already there inside of you. You don't even need to look outside of yourself to find that inspiration. You just need to be able to listen to that voice inside you and have the courage to follow it. So in closing, I would like to show you a small video on leadership, and we can end with that.